Hey everyone, Eric here in the garden. It's a cloudy evening. The last video went over the fertilization, and now I want to just do a quick garden tour, show you some other things I'm growing. These were grown from seed in the spring. These, of course, are zinnias, looking really nice. Also some cosmos. You'll notice the chicken wire toward the end where we have either weeds or just little stubs of some marigolds. The rabbits liked them just as well. The point of today's video is just to give a little late June garden update. We've got our second flush of blooms. Did not prune or deadhead really well, so some of these are smaller blooms, but still looking pretty good with our heat. Just notice, I don't know if I've got Japanese beetles, I'll have to see. Obviously somebody's liking those rose petals as much as I am. That is Folklore. We mentioned that we've got the sport of Folklore here right next to it, and that is European Touch. Really nice apricot bloom. You can contrast these two. Same growth, same leaves. The original on the right is the orange Folklore. The apricot rose on the left is the European Touch. These blooms on Secret, again, like a lot of the roses this time of year, a little bit smaller. The heat, and also I did not prune real hard like I do in the spring to promote long stems, big blooms. I kind of let them do their thing in the summertime. But despite that, one rose I would recommend, I have not grown it more than, I guess this is the second year now, is Pope John Paul II. Both of these I got from Witherspoon. So I think they're usually on Dr. Huey, and they usually get them from Weeks, but it just depends. But Secret, Pope John Paul II, especially Pope John Paul II, really good growth on it. And the third rose I got that year was Fragrant Cloud. It's probably more the variety than anything, but I got them at the same time. And you can see that's the biggest, Pope John Paul II, then Secret, fairly close behind, and then Fragrant Cloud, not that good of a grower as of yet. A good growing rose, I've been real happy with this in the second year. It's almost as tall as the Mr. Lincoln. This is Dolly Parton. Got this from Palatine Roses. This is on Multiflora, and this is a good example of you plant a rose, and the first year or two it might not do that much. You know, it's not struggling per se, but it's just, you know, just slowly growing. And then that third year they leap out. I can't remember the rhyme with it, but there's a rhyme there about how they grow kind of slow the first couple years, and then the third year they're leaping out of the ground. Toward the back, Alina, and then that Yolande de Aragon, easily the most tall roses in the garden. Here's a fan favorite, Double Delight, beautiful bicolor bloom, also has a fragrance. The majority of this garden are fragrant roses, so Double Delight, Dolly Parton, Mr. Lincoln, Pope John Paul II, Secret, Fragrant Cloud behind it, all fragrant roses in that garden. Over here are more exhibition roses. They tend to hold the center a little bit longer, so you get something like this. This is Ring of Fire, I forgot this one, a beautiful orange rose, kind of a newer hybrid tea rose in exhibition. I mean, it's been around for a little while, but one of the newer ones, and opens up to a beautiful open bloom. Speaking of open blooms, I showed you these the other day. I don't see, most of these are open by now, but the really nice coloring on Marilyn Monroe. It goes from that real tight spiral bloom, oranges apricot on it, to a nice open bloom as well. And right now it's cloudy, so this is why I'm shooting this video, because this is about the perfect time to show you some of these flowers, so you kind of get a realistic color for what they actually look like. I mean, let that camera focus. Again, that is Marilyn Monroe in the garden. Garden's looking pretty good. I have noticed my day to spray is tonight. I am starting to get some black spot on some of the lower leaves. We've had a tremendous amount of rain, so for them to look this good is pretty good, but I might have to go to a weekly spraying because the black spot is getting kind of crazy. At the 50,000 foot level, everything looks good. But as you get low on some of the plants, especially the ones that show up first, Crescendo, Marilyn Monroe, those tend to get black spot first in my garden versus some other ones that take a little longer. Something like even a Gemini usually tends to be not resistant, but it's a little harder to get black spot. For the most part, I don't see much on that, and that's why I recommend Gemini as a good growing rose, pretty easy to get, mail order. And another one would be Veteran's Honor. Really, really good growing rose. Does it get black spot? Of course, or it can, but it's not the first one in the garden like something like Crescendo or Marilyn Monroe. That's it. We're going to get some rain here shortly, so I'm going to wrap up this video. Just wanted to give you a tour late June. As I wrap up this tour, I showed you these after the fertilizer video. The canna lilies in the back are doing well. Also the climbing roses, I've got those propped up. And then I finally put some netting down on these blueberries. The squash are doing good in pots. There's a couple more days until I've got some of those, so they're looking pretty good. I usually like to harvest them when they're on the smaller side, so they might be a little more tender. And some peppers. You got just a regular bell pepper. When I was a kid, I used to grow more vegetables than anything, and that's what kind of got me into growing things. But these blueberries, this is the second summer they've been here. Got a couple different varieties, but that black netting has proved its weight in gold, because now I actually have blueberries in there. I would go out each day and they would look like this, just starting to get purple, and then they were gone. Then I saw more, and then they were gone. I didn't quite realize what was happening because they never got to the blue stage. I didn't notice that they were being eaten by the birds. Now we're only getting handfuls pretty much each day, but pretty much each day we go out here, we'll pick a few off of a bush, and the kids can eat some blueberries handful by handful. In the coming years, when these become mature, we'll be able to have a lot more. And the fire pit is looking good. Coreopsis, coneflowers, pretty much past peak. The I forget what this is called now. I had it come back. These are more of a, they can be a tender annual or perennial in my area. The name is escaping me, but they didn't look so good. They're a tender annual in our area, or tender perennial, and they did come back a little later. Lantana, finally remember the name. So I noticed the tag from last year said this is an annual. In my area, we got down to 24, 25 can be the limit. So I'll know next year to kind of winter protect this. The old traditional butterfly bush, the daisy, Shasta daisy, a lot of people have those. I picked this up as a black-eyed Susan, different variety. I'll have to look at the tag. I thought it was a more traditional one, but that's pretty. I forget what this purple thing is over here, surrounded by sedge, which I'll get rid of with Roundup, and more Coreopsis. So that is it in the garden. Comment below, how is your garden doing? What types of things do you grow in addition to the roses? I mentioned the canna lilies, blueberries, azaleas, squash. I like growing a lot of different things, but obviously the focus has been roses for the majority of the yard. Take care, everyone.